There we go. Okay. So we're still like 3 minutes out. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's good to see a few people in the room already. And I lost power here about an hour ago. So I'm praying that I don't lose it. I'm like, oh my goodness, what would I do? Right?
I know.
Happened.
And my
Life.
computer wouldn't work and all kinds of things are going on. So,
Really? Where you are right now?
so we're having some internet power blips and things like that. So
Oh my goodness. And where are you right now, Soneakqua?
I'm in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we let everybody know Cleveland, Ohio. My brother was just there last week at the Cleveland Clinic, the infamous Cleveland Clinic, right?
Yes, yes. I've recently learned that there's a huge one, but then there are several little satellites all over the place of Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah, we have them here in Florida, but not all of them are like heart specific. So different ones have different, just like books, different genres, different places of expertise with the surgeons and so on. So yeah, we have like, I think over 70 people signed up for this. So I don't know what to expect. Hi, Karen. Oh, Heather. Hi, Heather. Are you
Hi,
back?
Michelle.
Hi.
I got back less than 24 hours ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little jet lagged.
Oh, yeah. I got back late yesterday afternoon and I was in the States. I was just traveling from Indiana to Florida. And this morning, oh my goodness, it's so much hotter here. I could not acclimate to the heat.
Yeah.
In just 10 days of being gone. I'm like,
Frankly, I haven't left the house. As you can tell, I just took a shower. I've been trying to unpack, and I was in England, for those of you that don't know, for the coronation. So I'm a little punchy. But then again, I'm usually a little punchy, right, Michelle?
Yes, we love punchy. Yeah, it keeps our life interesting, right?
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. Well, wait just a few more minutes. Because hi, Wanda. Hi, Glenda. Hi, Gloria. Karen. Yeah, because sometimes people aren't sure how to connect. So we'll give them some grace here.
Yes.
Janice. Hi, Janice. She's connecting to audio. Oh, it's still thundering out there. No. Do not.
I wondered about power when we got that storm.
Yes. It flickered earlier, but hopefully it's not going to trip up my Wi-Fi. Here comes Anne. Let go and let God. Oh, look at her little. Yes. Hi, Anna. Hi.
Hey.
Well, let's see. A few more minutes, maybe.
Are we supposed to be muted?
Yeah, I guess you could do that.
Okay.
And then at some point, yes, thanks for asking. And then at some point, I'll ask you to unmute if because I'm sure there'll be Q&A and Soneakqua will probably want you to contribute. But yeah, that's a good idea.
So do I just do the A and Alt like I did to unmute myself, I guess?
Oh, I don't know. Here, I guess I've never heard of that. So you're probably going to teach me something, but I think I can click here. I'm clicking on your, and I can ask you to mute, or I can mute you or ask you to unmute. Deb's coming in. Hi, Colleen and Lucretia. Awesome. Yeah, we're just all muted, I think. So that's good. Yeah. Welcome. Yep, we're just waiting a few more minutes because so many people signed up. And I know, oh my gosh, Soneakqua, like the title, boundaries, protecting your peace. Like, who doesn't want that, right?
Yes.
Especially as we get, well, I say especially as we get older, but I think as we get older, we get a little wiser, and we're all about like, I already did that, done that. Like, I just want to chill. I want to have calm in my life. I want to have peace in my life. And, but yet, when we have a sick loved one, it's, yeah, it's just hard to take a breath sometimes. So,
Yeah.
So just another minute maybe. So some of you, I think everybody knows me. This is already recording. It's live streaming into our private tribe group. If you're not a member there, that's okay. You're welcome here today. And sometimes I have speakers come in like today, and I want to open that up to everybody because there's just so much benefit there. And if you don't know me, I'm the Chief Hope Builder. I wasn't always that. I used to write fiction and magazine articles and so on. And when addiction kind of struck our family, I felt called to do something different. And so that's when I wrote the book, Moms Letting Go Without Giving Up, 7 Steps to Self-Recovery, because I knew that moms needed help and I needed help. So I started that podcast in my closet, and I would take moms on my journey, because what I was learning was so not what I believed about addiction. And so when I was learning, I felt like other moms and families needed to learn the same. And so I would, just talk about the book I was reading or any part of my journey. And then started a Facebook group and the rest, so then we wrote the next book, Unhackable Moms. If you haven't tapped into that podcast series, the book is a 30 steps, 30 days to going from havoc to hope. And I interview Lucretia, Gloria, some people in this room for that. And it's at the podcast, so you can follow that. I think we're on maybe day 12 tomorrow. Not sure about that, but maybe day 12. And tonight I have to put my glasses on because I got to read your bio. I have Soneakqua White, and I met Soneakqua at something that she and I were both a part of. It was all about trying to do more to build up the kingdom and to lead others in the space. And I met her, and I was instantly I just really connected with what she does. And I asked her to come and talk to us today. So she is the owner of Cathartic Coaching and Counseling. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Baylor University in 1998 and completed her Master's of Arts and Counseling from Amherst University in 2002. She's a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, just moved to Ohio not that long ago, and a mental strength strategist who coaches influencers in doing their mental prep work behind the scenes and off camera. She assists them in building and maintaining the mental capacity to handle their platforms with excellence. She is also a prolific writer with several published books that she has written specifically for the clientele she works with. Her newest release is also for you too. Her newest release is Before You Blow Up and Coaching the Called, focuses on encouraging up-and-coming faith-filled influencers to get a handle on mental health challenges ahead of rising to the tops of their respective platforms. So tonight I welcome Soneakqua, and she is going to be talking to us about boundaries and protecting your peace. So thank you so much for coming, Soneakqua, and being a part of our group tonight. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
And I think I'm going to put it on speaker mode. There you go.
Okay. Are we ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, yes, of course, tonight we're going to be talking about boundaries, but I usually come at it from the view of protecting your peace. We set boundaries to protect our peace so that we can love our loved ones better. And that is the stance in which I take. But before we get started, I want to say this, that I hope that most of you, if not all of you, have heard a lot of this information before. And the reason why I say that is because typically it takes most of us at least hearing something 3 times before we even have like an aha moment. And it takes most of us about 7 times of hearing something before we are moved to action. And about 21 to 30 times before we get consistent after we've started doing something. So I hope that this isn't the first time you've heard it, so you're somewhere else in the process. But even if it is the first time, I'm glad to be that first person for you. And I hope that you would hear these things again. And from this day forward, I would like for you guys to think that you do not despise repetitive teaching, that you actually love repetitive teaching so that you get it in your soul, where that you don't have to say, I know that just because you heard it. You say, I know that because you live it. Okay. All right. So as we get started, I want to kind of take us through some imagery work. So I'm not going to take us too deep because I don't want to trigger anyone too deeply. But if you would, I'm going to close my eyes because I need to do that to go there. But if you'd like to close your eyes with me as well, I'm going to take you through some imagery really quickly. Okay. So I want you to imagine yourself and your addicted loved one or sick loved one or troubled loved one, whatever you experience. You and your loved one are at the beach. It's beautiful. The sun is shining. The ocean waves are there. The water is drawing you into it. So you're holding hands with your loved ones and you're walking toward the water. Now you are in the water only ankle deep. It's beautiful. You feel peaceful. You feel safe. Your loved one gets a catch of something in their eye in the distance. So you move further into the water. Now you're knee deep in the water with your loved one, still holding hands, still at peace. But more and more you're drawn because your loved one is drawn to something you cannot see, but they can. Now you're waist deep in the water. You're getting a little nervous, but you're still okay. At this point, you're moving further because you're willing to go with them. Now you're shoulder deep into the water. Your loved one sees something that you cannot see, and they're headed toward it. Now you're so deep within the water that your feet do not touch the bottom. You need to tread. You can swim, so you're okay. You're treading water and you're moving towards something that your loved one can see that you cannot. Eventually, you do get tired and you signal to your loved one, you need to go back to shore. But they are unwilling to go because there's something that they are trying to get to that, again, you cannot see, but they can. So you ask to let go of their hand and they let go. You get back to shore. You're now standing on the beach. However, your loved one is still after something in the distance that you still cannot see. You're worried now because you got tired, so you know they have to be tired. So you wave for them to come in, but they don't come. You now send a ship to rescue them, but they wave the ship off. You send a helicopter to rescue them, but they wave off the helicopter. You do not re-enter the water. You're still on the beach. They can see you. You can see them. And every now and then you wave to let them know that you're there. And you wave to let them come in. They do not want to come in. They are still after what it is that they're after. Now I want you to open your eyes. I want you to check in with yourself about how you felt about that entire situation, leaving them in the water to go after what they were after while you went back to shore. I want you to think about that. You can write anything down. You can put anything in the chat that you might have felt, but I also want you to hold on to that imagery and whatever those feelings are as we go through the who, what, when, where, why, and how of boundaries and protecting your peace. Now, this is something that I do. The imagery that I just shared with you is something that I do because I come from a family of addicts. And when I see this imagery, this is how I protect my peace. When I went into the water with them holding hands, I went as far as I could go. I can swim, so I did tread and swim as long as I could. But once I got tired and realized that my safety might be in jeopardy, even though I can swim, if I'm tired, I'm not going to be able to do that well. So for me, I can go as far as I can go with my ability, and then I have to pull back. I do not abandon. I'm still on the beach. I can see them. They can see me. Every now and then I wave to remind them I'm here. Every now and then I motion, come home. But I have to give them that choice. I send a ship as another form of help. I send a helicopter as another form of help, but it is ultimately up to my loved one to decide if they will accept any of the help that I'm sending. I don't abandon, but I don't harm myself in the process, okay? So that's what I want you to kind of hold on to that, from that, no matter how you're feeling. I want you to hold on to what you are feeling, but hold on to what I'm saying about the image, okay? I've watched family members. I have alcohol and gambling are the two primary addictions that my family faces. I've watched some as I grew up die from alcohol-related diseases and accidents. And I'm still watching some of them who have the gambling addiction where it's come down from the generations and they live in poverty because the gambling is just taking over. And it's really hard to watch. That's one of the reasons why I'm now in Ohio and not in Texas where I was raised, to get closer to the family to see if there's anything else we could do to help. But what I always have to keep in mind is that my life doesn't have to be miserable, even if theirs is. And sometimes that might seem a little harsh, but in my stance as a professional and as a family member, I have to be healthy so that I can send the ship or I can send the boat. Okay. So that's where I'm coming from in this stance. You don't abandon, but you do not harm yourself either. Okay. And so as we talk about the who, what, when, where, why, and how, I want to start with who when I'm talking about boundaries. Who do you need to set boundaries with? And the answer to that question is really everybody. You really need to set boundaries with everybody. So this is just not singling out your addicted loved one. This is for everyone, because you have to, again, think about protecting your peace. And that for me is what a boundary is for. It's not for you to try to change the person's behavior. It's to try to control the effect that their behaviors have on you. Okay, so you have to think about what gives you peace of mind. Go back to the imagery that we did. Where is your place of peace? Your place of peace may not be on the beach where mine is. Your place of peace might be waist deep into the water. That may be where you feel like you're doing the most that you can without harming yourself. So not everybody's place of peace is the same. So I don't want you to get into the habit of comparing. Even if your girlfriend has an addicted loved one as well as you, and you guys are in this group, and everyone has a loved one who might be struggling. Not everybody is going to be in the same place. So I want us to get in the habit of respecting where another person's place of peace is. Mine is on the shore. Yours might be waist deep. And that is okay if you are operating out of a place of peace. Okay, so think about who, as in your addicted loved one, and where your place of peace is with them. You also want to know who needs boundaries, as in yourself. You have to have boundaries set up so that you can live the life that you want to live, regardless of what other people around you are doing. And then you want to think of other family members, because often you have family members who are not struggling in the same way. You have other children or other loved ones who also need you, also care about you. So where is their place? You have to remember that if you're focused solely on the addicted or the troubled loved one, you're leaving some other loved ones behind. And so think about how you set your boundaries so that you can participate with everyone in some kind of fashion. You also have to edit when it comes to other loved ones as well, because typically they want you to just be okay. And they want you to not be sad or not be depressed or whatever it is going on with you. So they will try to get you to do things or tell you to do this or come over here. So sometimes you understand that their hearts are in the right place, but you still have to edit. You still have to know what your boundaries are with them as well. Because remember, no one sees the situation exactly like you do, especially if you're a mom. Even dad or aunt or grandma, nobody is going to see the situation exactly like you. So you can take their information, but you still have to make it the boundaries so that it's peaceful for you. Okay. So the next thing is what? Now, when I'm going through a boundary setting exercise with a client, the what is what's the problem? Now, even if you have an addicted loved one, everybody's problem is not the same. So I'm going to use in this instance that your problem is that your sick loved one's behavior is basically running your life. You are doing everything that you possibly can to help them, and you're neglecting other parts of your life because of this. So right now in this scenario, that is your problem. And you have to think about it in this way as well. If it's not the loved one running everything, running the parts of your life, are your other children causing trouble now because they're being neglected? Now you have other children acting out because the sick loved one acts out. So, hey, maybe I can get some attention if I do something out of control. So you have to think about, okay, what is my problem and what do I need to get a handle on? So that's what you focus on regardless of anything else. What is the problem that you are dealing with? Okay. So when we talk about when you set boundaries and when you enforce them, the enforcement part is pertinent. Okay. So when do you set boundaries and when do you enforce? When it can be proactive. So if you know that there are just some things in your life that you just need a boundary for, set the boundary with everyone immediately. But you won't always know all of the boundaries you need to set until something happens. So I think about that when the occasion arises. you need to set the boundary as quickly as you can when the need is there, okay? And of course, the enforcement, you always want to enforce the consequence of crossing your boundary as soon as you possibly can. If you can do it immediately, you want to do it immediately. Because if you don't, here's what I've run into. You can say to a young child, maybe, I'm going to ground you, or I'm going to, whatever you're going to do. But if you don't do it, then it was just like there was never a boundary set, because now you've given them permission to push the boundary because you said you're going to punish me and you didn't. So not enforcing the consequence is just like you never set the boundary. Okay. So, and this is a big one, especially with moms in particular. Do not set a consequence that you cannot enforce. Okay. If you don't want to spank, do not say you're going to spank, or whatever the situation is. If you're not going to put them out, do not threaten putting them out if you're not going to be able to do that. Okay.
Soneakqua, can I
Yes.
ask you a question?
Yes.
So I love this. When, you set and enforce, and recently in one of our support meetings, our moms had a son who did something she never, ever expected. Okay.
Mhm.
And they found out that he was charging stuff on their credit card. And so it was quite a bit of time that he had been doing it, and quite a bit of money.
Mhm.
And I think they were so stunned. And like you said, like, if you know right away what your boundary is, set it. But they just couldn't believe that it happened. And so sometimes, we're just so awestruck that we don't know what boundary to, like, what is the consequence of that? What will it be? And I always say, well, where's your value system? And it's personal, like what you want to set for that is up to you. But I think sometimes we all struggle with, what's an important, or what's a good natural consequence to something like that? And what does that look like? And I'm sure you can't say, okay, you need to do this, because we never do. Like,
Right.
And every situation is different, but maybe, I don't know if this is the time to speak into that, but maybe you could say
Absolutely.
something about that.
Yeah, and that is a tough one. Like I said, going back to everybody's place of peace is different. So then you think about, oh wow, boom, this is something that I had never expected, so I didn't plan for it. So you can take a moment to think about, okay, what do I want to have happen? Because remember, you're not setting the boundary to change their behavior. You hope that it will. What you're setting the boundary to do is to protect you from their behavior. So can you take away access to your credit cards, or however they're charging? Can you figure out a way for them to pay back some of, whether they have to cut lawns, or some way for them to pay back what they've charged or what they've spent? So you can take some time to figure out what it is, because you also want to have something in place for if they slip through the crack or slip through your system and they are able to do it again. Now you know immediately what you will do. And we'll get to this in just a few minutes, but if you haven't had the conversation, the boundary isn't set. Okay, so if something like this is something that's new, so if you have to take a moment to think about it, make sure that you come back and you have a conversation that, okay, this is something we never expected to happen. So here's what we're going to do going forward. This is what you're going to do to help pay this back, whatever you decide. And then this is what will happen if this happens again. Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll move on into why. Why do you need to set boundaries? Now, I don't assume that this is obvious to everyone. So this is why I put it in there, but this is the way I look at it. You guys have heard this before, I'm sure. You teach and reteach people how to treat you. But if they don't want to learn, don't make that your problem. So you're going to have situations where they're not going to listen. So sometimes you keep going and you keep going, trying to make them, listen and do. If they don't want the lesson, don't make that your problem. You're going to have the conversation, you're going to go ahead and set the boundary, and then they will have the consequences. So you don't have to struggle. It's that they're at that point, this is what happens. Okay. So you want to give them the opportunity to learn, because this is teaching respect. If someone can respect your boundaries, then they can respect you. If they will constantly break your boundaries, they are in disrespect of you, because they are in disregard of your thoughts, feelings, and your needs. Okay. Like I said earlier, I set boundaries to protect my peace so that I can love you better. Because if I don't protect my boundaries, I'm frustrated with you. You're running amok in my life, and I'm getting ready to want to remove you from my life. And you all know that in a case of an addicted loved one, you don't want to do that. You want to be there for them. So you have to put yourself in a position where your peace is protected so that you can do what you need to or can do for them. Okay. All right. So let's move into where. Where is it appropriate to set boundaries? And of course, my answer is wherever there are people. Okay. So we think sometimes because certain people have certain titles and certain things that there should be no boundary for that person because they're mom or they're whoever. But I would say anywhere there's a person, everyone still needs boundaries. Now, not everybody's boundary is going to be the same. What you will allow grandma to do, baby boy cannot do that. So everybody has boundaries. They just may be different. Okay. And I say this to a lot of people, especially those who are of the Christian faith, because I am. Forgiveness is a big thing and it is a necessary thing. However, forgiveness is for someone who's making a mistake. Forgiveness is not so that people can continue to treat you however they want to treat you because they know you'll forgive. That is why we set boundaries. It's not that you need to stop forgiving. You forgive to release you from being tied to that issue or that event or that person or whatever. But the forgiveness does not mean automatic access back to that position in your life that was once there. So I think of the scripture that talks about turning the other cheek.
Excuse me. Soneakqua, that was so powerful. Could you repeat that sentence more slowly so I could capture it?
I agree.
I'm sorry. What was that? What did?
Yeah, that. I just couldn't capture it. Forgiveness is, I know that forgiveness is from my peace, but you said that forgiveness doesn't allow access.
Yes. So forgiveness is for you, but it doesn't automatically, just because you forgive someone, it doesn't automatically grant them access back into the same position in your life that they held.
Okay, slowly.
Okay.
I don't write that fast or think that
Okay.
fast.
So
Forgiveness doesn't automatically allow them access
back to the same position. In your life that they previously held.
We can be done. Amen, sister. I've just been churched. Thank you.
But I also think, Soneakqua, you said something, the sentence after that too, that was really powerful. And it'll be in the recording, but
I forgot about the recording. I can go back. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, let me just go back into that again and maybe I'll
Okay.
recapture it. So I
Okay,
was
thank
saying that the forgiveness is for you. So it releases you from the hold of the person, the event, or whatever was going on in that situation. But the forgiveness does not grant them access back into your life in the same capacity that they held before. That's why you set the boundary. You still forgive. It's not that you stop forgiving. We want to be forgiving people. We just have to set those boundaries so that they don't think that they can treat us any way they want to because we'll keep forgiving. Okay. And I know that people take the scripture, turn the other cheek, a little bit differently than what if you study what was going on, what actually happened. So we think you just turn the other cheek and just let them slap you again. But really what is happening is you do not retaliate. You do not return like for like. You still treat them with love, goodness, kindness, but you can remove your face from the ring. You don't have to keep being slapped, whether that's figuratively or literally. You don't have to let somebody continue to hurt you. You can, remove yourself. It's just that you don't retaliate, especially if you know that someone is sick, Okay, so we do want to still forgive. We just need those boundaries around that. And I also say this sometimes. We forgive, but sometimes you don't need to forget, because sometimes if you forget, you will open yourself up to allow the same situation to happen again. So sometimes I will say you need to forgive and remember, because that will help you with your boundaries. You want to remember what happened, because that's the thing that you need to set boundaries up for, so that that thing doesn't happen to you again. Even if the person is still behaving that way, your boundary has made it next to impossible for it to happen to you again. Okay? All right. Now we move into the big part, the how. And I know I've given you some pieces of how, but I really want to go through kind of an example of how I would walk you through setting a boundary. And I'm just going to use an example that I made up. And then if we have questions or whatever after, we can talk specifically. Okay. So again, I told you before, what is the problem? That's the first question that you need to ask yourself when setting the boundaries. What is the problem I'm having with this situation or with this person? Okay, so in the situation or the boundary setting activity that I'm going to use, the problem is that your addicted loved one is homeless or in a bad situation, and you're struggling because the option of living with you is not there. That is not an option for you. Okay. So now you ask yourself, how do you want to be treated? So what you might say is, I want to be treated with respect, and I want to not be blamed for my loved one's choices. Okay. So the next question you would ask yourself after you know that is, how are you going to teach this lesson? Okay, because remember, we teach people how to treat us. How are you going to teach this? So what I would say here is, you're going to have a conversation with the whole family. Unless your addicted loved one is the only person that you have, you don't necessarily need to single them out. You're going to have the conversation with the whole family. And you're going to talk about your need to be respected. That is what you want. You want to be respected, and you do not want to be blamed for the cause of anybody's problems or anybody's choices. Okay. Now, what I like to do when I'm working on boundary setting is, sometimes we tend to focus on what we don't want, and we don't quite get over to what we do want. So I like to make sure we give the people or person options of what is acceptable. So if they cannot live with you and you will not tolerate being disrespected. So what you can do, if they need you, if they want you to go to counseling with them, for instance, you will. I'm open to that. If you want to come and have dinner with the family, even though you can't live here, if you want to come over and have dinner with the family, you can. If you need me to help you make phone calls, if you're trying to get into treatment, if you're trying to do housing or whatever, if you need me to help you make phone calls, I will. So depending on where your level of peace is, again, this is, each person specific, offer something that you are willing to do and that you will accept so that they know a positive version of this as well, okay? Then we come to the consequences. Very important, okay? So this is where you say, if I am not treated with respect, I will disconnect the call. I will ask you to leave. I will, whatever the situation is, whatever you're going to do, if you are not treated with respect, this is what will happen. You lay that out, okay? If you are the cause of a family blow up, you will be the person asked to leave. Whatever the situation is, okay? So this is just you right now working this out on paper for you up to this point, okay? The next part is where you actually do have the conversation, and you need to word your conversation, whether you have bullet points, however you want to do it, you want to make sure that you've written it out maybe for yourself or put it in bullet points for yourself so you know exactly what you said, okay? Because remember, these are your boundaries. You're setting this, so you need to remember what you said, because our loved ones will challenge. You didn't tell me that part. You didn't say that. So you need to remember what you said and make sure that they know what you said. Okay. So in this, I'm just going to read you what I wrote so you can hear like the language of what I would say. I'm having this conversation with the family because there's something I need from you. I need for us to be able to interact without disrespect or blaming. I will not gaslight you. If there are things you're angry with me about, I'm willing to work through them. However, from this point forward, I will no longer tolerate being cursed at, yelled at, or blamed for your choices. If you should start cursing or yelling or blaming, I'll remind you of this conversation. If you continue, I will terminate the conversation and or ask you to leave. Okay? There is no ifs, ands, or buts about what I just said. Okay? And everybody in the family heard it, and I have a note of it for myself. At this point, your boundaries are set. So when they are crossed, because somebody will try to, you give them your warning like you said you would. I will remind you of this conversation. And if it continues, the enforcement happens immediately. Okay? So that is, I don't want to bombard you and overwhelm you. So this is what I have so far, just over this. So if there are questions or anything specific, I'll be ready to answer any of those when you guys are ready.
I loved how you said, do the positive first. Like tell them what you are willing to do. What can you do? And what you will be willing to do. Because sometimes I think that they're so full of shame and guilt, and that they feel so low already, that sometimes they think there's nothing that you will do for them anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important to, highlight, well, this is what I'm willing to do. And, you matter to me. I love you, but I also, like you said, I love myself. I need this piece for me too. And sometimes we say, in order for me to keep my peace, it's so important for me to keep my peace now, because when they do want recovery, that's when they're going to need your energy, right? So put it in those positive places later, than when it's going to be appreciated and needed, and be ready. Yeah. So
yeah, because this will help you, the boundaries, protecting your peace will help you conserve energy, because sometimes you're fighting to get when they're not ready.
right.
And you're just fighting a losing battle because they're not ready. And then by the time they are, you're so worn out, you want to help, but you just can't sometimes.
Well, and oftentimes I do see moms that say, I'm done. I'm not helping anymore. And I'm coming from it like, wait, this is the time you're supposed to help, right? They're ready now, so of course, from my perspective, I don't know the whole story, but it's easy for moms to get so burned out that when it's finally the right time, because they've just given so much that they're spent, they just can't anymore. So anyway, but yeah, feel free to ask questions, unmute yourselves if you have any questions. I'm going to take it off a speaker here, and maybe, I don't know if I can do that here. Speaker view. Oh,
I think you can change it to gallery or something like that.
Yeah, I thought, I don't know. Anyway, gallery.
Well, yeah, so this is the main thing about protecting your peace and setting the boundaries, is that so that you can have that protect your energy, so that when they are ready, like you said, you're not spent at that point. And I know it's hard because you're trying to rescue, you're trying to save them in that moment, you're trying to keep them from hitting rock bottom. You think they're already there, but for them, they're not. So it's like, conserve your energy until they hit rock bottom, and then you can give it everything you have.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Does anybody in the room have a boundary that has been really difficult to set? You want to unmute and go ahead, feel free to ask a question.
It has taken me a super long time to hang up the phone. And literally, even sometimes when I hadn't had enough guts to speak my boundary until this last week. And I said, okay, I love you, but I am not having these conversations. And we are not coming to visit on Monday because she's in mental health right now, because you've done nothing but shred me emotionally. And I cannot do this, nor am I going to allow. So I'm hanging up the phone. And if you want to talk nice to me, we'll try to come again a different day this week. But tonight's not happening. Well, then she called right back. Well, I'm sorry. I said, no, today's already over. Oh, but you can try tomorrow.
Good for you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
you.
let's give her a big round of applause.
And that was super hard for me to not feel guilty afterwards. But when I carried through, I felt so good.
Yeah, well, yes, that was excellent, because you didn't cut off an opportunity. You didn't say, I'm never coming back. You said, maybe we could try this again another week when you're in a different space, basically. So the manipulation happened because she called you back and tried to get you to come. That was
4 times left me messages on my phone. But
yeah,
I did not respond to them because I already said we're done for today.
yes, good
We
for
did
you.
go the next night because she did have polite conversations. She was still angry about stuff, but it wasn't shredding me.
Good. So you
And
made
it's
more
like, I
progress.
can't keep doing this.
You made more progress. Deb, I want to know, when you set that boundary, and it was so difficult the times that she called back and everything. How did you cope in that situation? Is there anything that you can share that might help other moms who are listening find that courage that you found in that moment? Like, what was it that really helped you, help stop you and reinforce what you had said to her, and stopped you from answering and going back on what you had said?
I'm not totally sure, but just the fact that I did feel peace when I said, for tonight, we are done. And then when she's, oh, now I'm sorry, which goes to what you talked about. Well, you know, see, I'm asking for your forgiveness. So now you're supposed to, because what she throws in my face all the time, that I'm supposed to do this or that, because otherwise I'm a hypocrite and I'm not a Christian. And she likes to push me. And I will say way too many times I've fallen into it. But
Yeah. And we have to have some holy assertiveness. That's what I call it
Oh!
when we're Christians and we are being manipulated in that way, because that's a good one that says, you know, if we don't do what they want us to do, then you're not being a good Christian. Well, sometimes we have to exert some holy assertiveness. And what I mean by that is basically what you did. Yes, I am a Christian. What I'm doing right now does not take away from the fact that I love you and I love you with the love of God. But tonight I'm not doing this, you know, so use your holy assertiveness, and that is good.
I like that. And
I love
because
it.
it's like, okay, she's going through hard stuff, so I need to listen instead of saying, no, I need to listen to her feelings. But when it comes that all of it's about me, that I caused all this, that I'm the evil problem, if I never adopted her and blah, 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 and calling me all these names. No.
Yeah.
So yes, I am feeling my victory this week, but it's been a lot of years coming.
Yeah. It's never too late. I'm proud of you. Yes.
Yay.
Yes. And it's going to build a better relationship between you and her, because if nothing changes, the change has to start with us, because obviously it's not starting with them yet.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing, Deb. Does anybody else have a question or a situation they want to share, either a frustration or something that worked for them?
I just have a statement. Well, a couple of statements.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to thank you for coming and speaking and giving your time to us. And a lot of things that you have said, I'm reminded of what I have said. So it's a lot of confirmation. So
Good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, we need to hear it sometimes over and over, even if it's just like you said, confirmation that, okay, I am on the right track. Let me just keep going.
Yeah. And I think everybody's tolerance level is different. So when to set and enforce those boundaries is so personal. It's so different for all of us. And it's especially maybe with social media, it's so difficult because we compare ourselves with other people, and we might see the outside of what somebody else seems to be doing in their family and how much love there. And then we feel guilty about, well, maybe it's me, you know? So I think, is there, Soneakqua, maybe something you can say about what is something that can be indicative of when we're not at peace? Like, what are some of the symptoms to know, oh my goodness, I am feeling X way. So this must be one of those times where I need to set a boundary, because some people just really don't even realize it's happening to them.
I would say now you're going to the mental health space and the physical space. And I don't always separate those, because a lot of times what we do experience are physical symptoms manifested from the emotional symptoms. So I would say look at both. If you are now getting headaches, if you are now experiencing digestive problems, if you are if you know what it feels like when you're stressed out or just completely overwhelmed, if you don't want to get out of bed, if life is just hard, for you to get up, get yourself ready, get the things done, your ADLs, the stuff that you normally need to do. If that starts getting hard, you're way past your threshold. And I always say we each have a stress threshold. Everybody's is different. We all manage at a certain level of stress most of the time because you have to do this and you need to do that. And, but once you're at a place where, okay, there's physical symptoms or there's mentally emotional symptoms, whichever ones you spot first, are you having anxiety? And most people would say nervous. If you're nervous, if you're on edge, if everything makes you jump, your startle reflex or your fight, flight, or freeze reflex is always on. You're hyper vigilant. So start looking out for things that are not your norm. If going to the bathroom more than 4 times a day is not your norm, even something like that could be letting you know, your body's letting you know, something's not quite right. Yeah. If you're anything outside of your normal day-to-day, so that would mean you have to know your normal, what is your threshold? Anything outside of your normal threshold, okay, there's something going on. If there's a pain in your body, if all of a sudden now you have a backache or a knee ache, or don't necessarily say, oh, I'm getting old. That could be something telling you you're a little bit more stressed than you normally handle. Stop, take a breath, ask yourself, what is going on that's over my limit?
Good. Great. Yeah. Yeah. So it's so important.
Yeah.
And sometimes we take, when we come into meetings, we give a peace index.
Okay.
I think you were in the room when that speaker, I forgot what his name is. Oh, but the
Yes, I know who you're
5 P's, and to be able to assess where is your peace today based on your purpose, the people in your life, the provisions, where you're living, your physical fitness or physical, and golly, I always forget the 5th. I always forget 1 P, but we do it. And it's so interesting because you can have 4 of those be just really great, right? And just one, like if your addicted loved one, if everything else in your life is going well, but that one person is upsetting your peace, you're going to just feel off kilter. And just to think about that every day, like, where am I in my peace? And if it's below, like 1 out of 5, 5 being the best, if it's below 5, well, where is it? Where is it low? Which one of those P's is not doing well in my life? And is that something that I can control? Is it a new boundary that I have to set? And so it's always looking at that peace index for ourselves.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of the book?
I do remember that person. Yeah. In the presentation, I remember writing a lot of notes when he was talking.
And afterward, I brought it to the group, and we've just really implemented it into some of our thinking about our own lives and finding our peace. So it's really great to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, so then this just goes right into it. So if you are already doing the peace index, then make sure you're protecting your peace index if that's what you want to.
And awareness comes first. So where in that index is it upside down? Like, where are you having trouble? Because just one of those P's, which I can't remember them all. If anybody's on here, you can unmute and say what they are. I don't know. I'm just forgetting one. But really, they're really good to think about.
And think about it like this. If you, like you said, if you're not at a 5, then where are you? And making sure that you at least take a look at it, because you don't want to look up the next day and be at a 1 all of a sudden.
Right.
So sometimes you'll ignore it because it's a 4. So that's, that's not too bad. But if you don't look at it at all, the next thing you know, you're way out of whack when maybe you could have caught it before.
Yeah. Well, and you can actually stop and fix it. Like, if I'm not at a good place, then how can I take charge of what's going on? But I think I remember people was one, the people in your life, the place. So where it could be proximity, your purpose. Are you living in your purpose, or are you, I recently had a mom who lost both of her sons. She has no more children now to addiction. And she said to me, I don't know what my purpose anymore is, because my whole life was, my sons, and she's struggling with that. So her peace index is a little off kilter. Your physical fitness, or your physical health in general, and then provision, are you, what's your finances like, are you able to provide for yourself and your family, or are the provisions for your family in a slump for some reason right now? So all 5 of those really impact your peace. And boundaries, boundaries come into play with all of that. So, because anytime there's people, there's boundaries, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, I would like to speak to that physical part.
Yeah.
People ask you, well, if you could go back and do anything different, what would you do? Okay. Especially if you've been on this journey for a long time, 15, 20 years, half your life, whatever it is. And I've thought about that a lot, because someone else asked me that question. And, I'm big into self-care. I guess because I've been driven to that, because I've had to either sink or swim, right? And so this whole last year, right along with Glenda's been doing this too and experiencing some of this, health issues. And, you don't want to feel sick, you don't want to feel pain, but sometimes you have to make a choice. What am I going to do? Am I going to go to the doctor? Am I going to figure this out? Or am I going to just continue to deny it? Okay. And you deny it long enough and you end up in ER, right? So, and then that's a big aha moment. And, oh, I guess I need to do something about this. And so that's what I've been doing. And my word for this year is recharge. And so I've been recharging, literally getting infusions with vitamins, and seeing the doctor and finding out that my thyroid screwed up, my hormones and everything else. And, it's, well, no wonder I've been on this journey where I've been on for many years. And I thought that was my norm, being on and being in fight mode all the time. But when you're in fight mode all the time, your adrenals are up and everything. But then when you're not in fight mode and you come down and you're going, oh, I'm tired every day. Oh, this is not normal either, So you're on this journey. And that's what I would tell moms, I guess, that are just starting it or in the middle of their journey or wherever they're at, is to take care of yourself. And that's what you were talking about here, because that is part of our boundary to ourselves. We owe that to ourselves, and I've said for a long time that people treat you the way they do because you allow it. I've said that over and over and over again, and we set those boundaries, or we don't set the boundaries, and you just keep allowing these people just to be stepping all over you, and you're pushed to the back burner. Moms often are. And then they're left depleted. No wonder they can't take care of anything else that they've got going on. They can't take care of themselves. So I would say, if I look back on that, I should have taken better care of myself.
So, but Lucretia, I want you to give yourself some grace here. For those of you who don't know Lucretia, she has 7 children. And when her sister died of a substance use related accident, 2 of those 7 children were hers. And so Lucretia took those children. And so what happens is, you know, moms do, we sacrifice for our children. And sometimes it becomes a pattern. It becomes, you know, just something that we innately do. It's kind of like, you know, it's just our mission.
Automation. Yeah.
Yeah, automatically. And so at some point you wake up and you're like, whoa, you know,
How did I get this old? How did this
how
happen?
did this happen? But I just want to say Lucretia's youngest was in prison for 2 years. And nobody in our group has a stronger faith, or Lucretia just led us in the Armor of God Bible study. And she's such an inspiration. And we watched Joshua, her son, be in prison. We would pray for him. And then we watched when he got out and we were like, oh, where's he going to go? You know, he can't go home. Oh my goodness. And she would just calmly, you know, pray. And now he is over 2 years out and doing really well. But, you know, such an inspiration, but it's a journey, and we just try to do the best that we can. And I just want to, you know, kind of highlight you there, Lucretia, because
Oh, well, thank you.
you didn't take care of yourself, but you just had a lot on your plate, girl.
And sometimes you just do the best that you can in that moment and in that time, because it's like you're being propelled and you're sitting in the back seat and somebody else is driving, you know, and you're just trying to stay in the car, you know, and it can be a wild ride for sure.
Or wishing somebody would throw you out. Yeah. Yeah. So
That's true.
does
What
anybody-
I think about when I'm hearing you all talk about that is that you can help so many people, especially if they're just getting started, where they don't have to have the same journey or as difficult as a
Right.
journey that you did. If they hear your story, I tell people, experience is not always the best teacher. If you can learn from somebody else's journey, then you can save yourself a lot of headache and heartache. And so when I hear you say that, I'm thinking I could take some of this stuff back to some clients and say, hey, I got to listen to a woman who has been where you are now, and this is what you might want to consider so that your road may not be as difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Mhm.
Sure. Does anybody have any more boundary questions or any questions for Soneakqua or myself or anybody in the group? Just maybe something that's just really heavy on your heart and you just feel so uncertain of how to handle a situation or how to set a boundary or when or any of the who, what, when, where, why, or how. Please let us, you know, go ahead and unmute.
I have a frustration that, and I don't think there's anything that can be done about it, but maybe sharing it. And that is, my child is not in communication with me, and that is her choice. She made it abundantly clear in court that she wants nothing to do with me. So I get very little information about her. Her child is in foster care because she almost killed him. She left her methadone out and he drank it. And praise God, he is not dead, because he should have been. I mean, honest to God, he should have been. And I give God all the glory that he isn't. My frustration is I can set all the boundaries, and I did. I had to live with her for 7 months, and then she was removed from the home because she assaulted me, and I was raising her son, and I set boundaries. When is this country going to make DCF set boundaries? That's my frustration, because they've put in TPR paperwork now. this incident with her child happened last August, didn't put the paperwork in until December 14th. And we still haven't had a court case. And yet there's still the chance that her son may go back to him. And I'm not even party to the case now because I've been, I came home. Somebody else is now fostering. Thankfully, it's family foster. So I do know how my grandson is doing. And I'm doing so much better. Michelle can attest to that because look, I'm not crying. And I'm just so frustrated. And I tried I wasn't crying. I tried really hard to put it in its box. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm asking.
Well,
Really.
no, I think you're sharing your frustration, and when things feel so out of control,
yeah, and that was one of the things I made note of when you asked the question at the beginning, Soneakqua, about how do I feel in that situation when she's out chasing the treasure that she can see that I can't see. How do I feel? I have no control. I have nothing. That I'm not in control of my grandson. I can't have him come here because she and the father won't let me see him here. I have to go up there. They still get visitations lots of times a week. And yeah.
That is really frustrating. And I think it's the system too. And
yeah, it is.
I do think there are instances and states that are changing, but I also think that this is just my opinion, is eventually you are passionate about this, and eventually you're going to do something about this. And it's going to take people like all of us in this room to focus on something that we're passionate about, to go out and change. Because the way, like you said, like, are you kidding me? It was August and they just got that filed in December. Like, come on already. This is a child. And yeah, it's really hard to be patient with that. So I would just keep praying about how you will feel led or called to do something within your Donna, something within your means to change. Maybe it's just in your community for somebody else to not have to go through what you have. I don't know what that is. I'm just,
I don't know what it looks like either.
I don't have answers for sure. I don't. I just share your frustration. And so in our situation, my husband was brilliant, and he just showed up, went at our son and daughter-in-law's house with a piece of paper that gave us guardianship. And he said, you can't even manage your own health right now. You're so sick. We can't take the girls without having permission for their medical care, for their school. We can't talk to a doctor. We can't talk to school.
Mm-hmm.
So you either sign this paper or we're going to call Child Protective Services and get them here right now. So, I think it was under duress, but they signed. It was horrible. They were, but they knew they couldn't do anything about it. But I'm just saying it's my situation.
Right.
But it's
but part of my frustration is when I left my grandson, because it was clear that I had no control.
Yeah.
And the guardian they put in place was my ex-husband. And I said, this is not going to work. It's going to end badly. He's not going to supervise well. And everything happened that I just knew was going to happen. And thank God my grandson survived.
Yeah.
Thank God he survived.
And nobody listens. It's like, hello.
No, and that's the thing. You just cannot get DCF to listen, because parents have rights.
Yeah.
When will the children have rights?
Right. Yeah.
When will the children have rights? And
that is so difficult because some of our systems work reactively. They wait until something really bad happens and then they make a law or they change whatever. I always talk about proactive mental health because I'm I'm tired of everybody going on social media after someone is committed suicide and
Yeah.
saying, call the suicide hotline. Well, that's not the time you call.
Yeah.
So it's
And I came
something that
close last year.
I
had
think it's something that we
suicidal
always have
ideation
to
last
do.
year because of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to keep going. Like Michelle was telling you, if you're passionate about changing these laws or whatever the system is, keep going, keep doing something, keep talking, find your councilman or whatever the political parties and those things
Yeah.
are, because that's
See, he's out
kinda
of
what
state, so I
do.
don't know if that I can do anything. He's in Vermont and I'm here.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm sorry, that's not what we
That's
were here to
okay.
talk about, but that's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
that was, when you said, how do you feel when she's there and you're on the beach?
Mhm,
And, she wouldn't even hold my hand to go in the water.
mhm.
She'd be like, don't even step in my beach, bitch. I mean, that is what she would say. Well, that would be a calm way of how she would speak to me, honestly. So it's
Yeah,
just
and
so
we're just
hard.
going to pray that that's not
Yeah.
forever. I mean, because I've told Heather this before. Some of you don't know. My daughter-in-law hated me. She told people that we kidnapped her kids,
Mhm.
and we have a great relationship now. I never saw that coming. She just drove me to the airport yesterday to catch a flight, and we sat there and talked about boundaries because she's studying them. And we looked at each other and we were like, who would have thought, right? Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things, to Heather, I wanted to look into the state where your grandson is and see if they have CASA, CASA. We have that in Indiana. I don't know if it's here in Florida.
Right.
It's a child advocacy type of system. And when we were going through a lot of the stuff with our grands, I would call somebody from CASA just for comfort, to understand the system better, because there was that, well, what are my rights? Do I have any rights, or what can I do? It's kind of
Right.
like Lucretia
Because
says, what can
apparently
we do,
Vermont
right?
doesn't have grandparents' rights.
No, Arkansas
No,
doesn't
neither does
either.
Iowa.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things grandparents can do. I did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Lucretia. Yeah, she's got stories. Okay. Okay. Well, you guys can connect outside of this too. Heather's in the Mom's Letting Go group too. So Lucretia, if you want to reach out to her at any point. Does anybody else have? Thank you again, though, Heather, for being courageous enough to share your pain with us, because
Yes.
it's hard. It's hard. We can relate.
Yeah, I know you can. And I'm sorry you can.
Yeah, no kidding. Cry.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any other questions for Soneakqua? I love her name. Soneakqua, do you have a middle name?
Yes, and I won't tell you what it is. I was like, Mom, did you just say the alphabet backwards and come up with this name?
So you're not going to tell us.
She promises she found it in a baby book, but I never found that baby book. It's Jasquella, Jasquella.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Soneakqua Jasquella.
Yeah.
Man, that sounds like Hollywood.
Well, when you say it sounds like royalty when you said it.
Oh, I love it. I won't remember it tomorrow, but gosh, that's beautiful. I'm going to have to write that Jasquella like a character in one of my novels, right?
I know, right? You just made it sound pretty. I've always been like, what was she thinking? But it was the 70s,
Oh,
So.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you all for coming tonight and listening and being a part of this. I did record it, so hopefully it's going to work. I keep getting messages that my iCloud storage is full, so I don't know what that means for sure. I'm working on it. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to share this recording with those who weren't here too. So if there's somebody here I'll just send it out to everybody who asked asked to join. So maybe I'll do that. So if you're in this meeting right now, you should get it. So, and you too, Soneakqua. So, and Soneakqua, I just wanted to say, too, your imagery at the beginning was fantastic. The standing on the beach, and then I loved when you said some people, like you got all the way into your shoulders. I couldn't have gotten past my knees because I'm not a good swimmer.
Okay.
And that whole analogy brings to light how different we are in our value system, but on where we are with our peace. Like some people's peace is so different than somebody else's. And
Yes.
I just want to thank you for that imagery, because we learned so much through visuals. So that was very effective. So
You're welcome.
yeah.
So it really brought me back with my loved one. That imagery was really powerful for me. When he was 5 years old, we were on the beach in Maui together, and we were walking out into the water, and we walked out into the water, and the part of the beach where we were at had big coral reefs, and we were watching people really get injured just off the beach. And as we're walking, and he was only 5, we got rolled by a wave, and both of us came up sputtering. And that's one of the reasons your imagery was powerful, because I experienced that with him. And then just recently, he's now in his 40s. Just recently, we traveled together to Los Angeles, and we were out on the beach again. And so that imagery of being with him post trauma, and so he's now in recovery, but that was even more powerful imagery for me. So I want to thank you. You didn't know.
No, I had no idea.
So overwhelming for me, but thank you. That imagery was powerful.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have anything they want to share? No. Okay. Well, thanks again, Soneakqua, for being with us tonight and helping us kind of sort through boundaries. And it's just one word, but it's just can wreak havoc on our life, and it can change so much about our lives. And the more I do work in this space, the more difficult I see that this is, where people just misinterpret love with boundaries. And if I'm not so available, I must not love my person. And so thank you for kind of sharing the difference and protecting who we are. So
Absolutely.
all right.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And thank you all, moms, for coming tonight. God bless.
Thank you.
If you want to join the tribe, reach out, let us know, and we'll tell you more about, we meet every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, but good luck on your journey too, and on your setting boundaries. Okay. God bless.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.